parts of the program, just showing you how many different jobs have an IT department. You do some aspect of IT, you can do pretty much anything. It's very motivating. The feeling of growth is an amazing thing. Having felt stagnant for so long, working at what I consider to be a dead job with no real vertical movement, knowing that now you can advance, you can put yourself into so much more.
So don't think about what you think IT is. Think about all the possibilities of expansion that IT actually goes into. The program was great for me. It gave me more understanding of what IT is and all the different opportunities you can get into. And I can go into hardware, I can go into cybersecurity, and that's the best part because it's not just keeping me grounded to one level. I'm able to go further.
This program will definitely be the way to go to get your foot in the door, to learn and do more in this field that you're interested in. It has the basic fundamentals, it gives you the building blocks, and from there, the sky's the limit. New terms and their definitions. Course 1. Module 2. Address bus connects the CPU to the MCC and sends over the location of the data, but not the data itself. ATA, the most common interface that hard drives use to connect to our system. ATX, Advanced Technology Extended, the most common form factor for motherboards. Backward compatible. It means older hardware works with newer hardware. BIOS, basic input-output services. The BIOS is software that helps initialize the hardware in our computer and gets our operating system up and running. BYOD, bring your own device, refers to the practice of allowing people to use their own personal devices for work. Cache, the assigned stored location for recently or frequently accessed data. On a mobile app, it is where anything that was changed or created with that app is stored. Charge cycle, one full charge and discharge of a battery. Chipset, it decides how components talk to each other on our machine. Clock cycle, when you send a voltage to the clock wire. Clock speed, the maximum number of clock cycles that it can handle in a set in a certain time period. Clock wire, when you send or receive data, it sends a voltage to that clock wire to let the CPU know it can start doing calculations. CPU, central processing unit. CPU sockets. A CPU socket is a series of pins that connect the CPU's processor to the PC's motherboard. Data sizes, metrics that refer to data sizes including bit, byte, kilobyte, cubobyte, and megabyte. DDR SDRAM, double data rate SDRAM. A type of RAM that is faster, takes up less power, and has a larger capacity than earlier SDRAM versions. Desktop, the main screen where we can navigate our files, folders, and applications. DIMM, dual inline memory module. DisplayPort, port which also outputs audio and video. Dynamic random access memory drivers. The drivers contain the instructions our CPU needs to understand external devices like keyboards, webcams, and printers. DVI, DVI cables generally just output video. Electrostatic discharge. Electrostatic discharge is a sudden and momentary flow of electric current between two electrically charged objects caused by contact, electrical short, or dielectric breakdown. External data bus, EDB. It's a row of wires that interconnect the parts of our computer. Factory reset. Resetting a device to the settings it came with from the factory. Form factor. A mathematical way to compensate for irregularities in the shape of an object by using a ratio between its volume and height. Hard drive. It is a long-term memory component that holds all of our data, which can include music, pictures, applications. Hardware. External or internal devices and equipment that help you perform major functions. HDD. Hard disk drive. Hard disk drives, or HDDs, use a spinning platter and a mechanical arm to read and write information. HDMI. The type of cable that outputs both video and audio. Heatsink. It is used to dissipate heat from our CPU. Instruction set. A list of instructions that our CPU is able to run. ITX. Information Technology Extended. A form factor for motherboards that is much smaller than ATX boards. Land grid array, LGA, is a type of CPU socket that stick out of the motherboard. Lightning adapter, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. MB/s, megabit per second, which is a unit of data transfer rate. Memory controller chip, MCC, a bridge between the CPU and the RAM. Micro DisplayPort, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. Micro HDMI, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. Micro USB, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. Mini HDMI, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. Mini USB, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. Motherboard, the body or circulatory system of the computer that connects all the pieces together. Northbridge, interconnects stuff like RAM and video cards. NVMe, NVM Express, interface standard, which allows greater throughput of data and increased efficiency. Overclocking, it increases the rate of your CPU clock cycles in order to perform more tasks. PCI Express, peripheral component interconnect express. Peripherals, the external devices which we connect to our computer that add functionality, like a mouse, a keyboard, and a monitor. Pin grid array, PGA, CPU socket where the pins are located on the processor itself. Ports, connection points that we can connect devices to that extend the functionality of our computer. Post, power on self-test, it figures out what hardware is on the computer. Power supply, converts electricity from our wall outlet onto a format that our computer can use. Programs, basic instructions that tell the computer what to do. RAM, random access memory. Registers, an accessible location for storing the data that our CPU works with. Reimagining, the process of reimagining involves wiping and reinstalling an operating system using a disk image, which is a copy of an operating system. Return merchandise authorization, RMA, the process of receiving returned merchandise and authorizing a refund. ROM chip, read-only memory, a read-only memory chip where the BIOS is stored. RPM, revolutions per minute. Safe operating temperature, the temperature range in which rechargeable batteries must be kept in order to avoid damage. SATA, the most popular serial ATA drive, which uses one cable for data transfers. SDRAM, it stands for synchronous DRAM. This type of RAM is synchronized to our system's clock speed, allowing quicker processing of data. SOC, system on a chip, packs the CPU, RAM, and sometimes even the storage onto a single chip. Southbridge, it maintains our I/O or input-output controllers, like hard drives and USB devices that input and output data. SSD, solid-state drive. Standoffs, used to raise and attach a motherboard to the case. Thermal paste, a substance used to better connect our CPU and heatsink, so the heat transfers from to the other better. Type-C connector, a type of USB connector meant to replace many peripheral connections. UFI, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. USB, Universal Serial Bus, a connection standard for connecting peripherals to devices such as computers. USB-C adapter, one of the standard power, data, and display connector types used in mobile devices. Terms and their definitions from previous modules. Abstraction, to take a relatively complex system and simplify it for our use. Algorithm, a series of steps that solve specific problems. ASCII, the oldest character encoding standard used is ASCII. It represents the English alphabet, digits, and punctuation marks. Binary system, the communication that a computer uses is referred to as binary system, also known as base 2 numeral system. Byte, a group of 8 bits. C character encoding is used to assign our binary values to characters so that we as humans can read them. Computer, a device that stores and processes data by performing calculations. Cryptography, the overarching discipline that covers the practice of coding and hiding messages from third parties. D-decimal form, base 10 system. In the decimal system, there are 10 possible numbers you can use ranging from 0 to 9. Digital divide, the growing skills gap between people with and without digital literacy skills. I-information technology, the use of digital technology, like computers and the internet, to store and process data into useful information. L-Linux OS, Linux is one of the largest open source operating systems, used heavily in business infrastructure and in the consumer space. Logic gates, allow transistors to do more complex tasks, like deciding where to send electrical signals depending on logical conditions. O, open source, this means developers will let other developers share, modify, and distribute their software for free. EDA, personal digital assistant, allows computing to go